Hello and welcome to the Delirium engine, where our goal is to sit around and talk about imagination games for about an hour and waste your and our time. I am Bryant, also known as Mekhalikhar, here with Swampy, and we are going to be talking about all sorts of interesting things, and by all sorts I mean one thing. And it occurs to me at this very moment that I have not set up the topic properly. So guess what, friends? We're going to do that right now. Today's topic is not Rule 1, in character is where your grievances live, you are not your character, but instead, Rule 2. So, this is my makeshift tutorial for OBS Studio. You just click Preferences.
I'm looking at Rule 2.
Yeah, Rule 2. We got there. And then a character must have a greater goal to define its motives.
Always have a MacGuffin to give you purpose.
The dead air is brilliant, I might add.
I'm enjoying it. I'm having like a
Sometimes Brian shuts up.
meditative thought is really important during these key moments. At least I think so.
Boom. So yes. So I guess I'll just unfold the topic. Boop.
There we go. Perfect.
There we go. A character must have a greater goal to define its motives. So, in our Hugbox tradition, as we seem to have become a Hugbox trend on this show, we both pretty much agree in pre-talking about that this rule is real. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to explain the rule. But second, I think we should touch on why, not so much why it's a good rule, maybe we'll talk about that at the end, but what happens when your character does not have a goal. So that seems like that would take up more airtime, and it might help us get to some secret truths within these rules, much like we did in the last episode and previous episodes in past. So I guess I will just go ahead and start right away. So this rule is pretty straightforward. When you build a character as a player, your character needs to have something that it aspires to, or at the very least, some sort of set of ethics that, as a goal, it wishes to live by. It's pretty straightforward. It's a one-sentence rule. There's nothing fancy about it. So let's delve right into it. Swampy, what do you think about this rule? Do you think it's great?
I think it's a solid rule because, as a DM, I find I put in a fair amount of work. I find I put in a lot of structure into my setting, etc. And nothing makes me agitated and I guess internally passive aggressive, and I guess it's just kind of my own personal problem here, than a lazy player. And I find that a lazy player, and I know people might huck rocks at me on that one, but I don't really care. A lazy player doesn't have a goal, a backstory, or an idea of what they want to do. That should be determined by the player prior to starting the game. I have played it where characters have been picked up through the adventure and they don't have a goal, and I got agitated to the point of creating a goal for them where I have, say, gone to their home, marauders have gone to their home village, slaughtered their family, and now you have the goal of vengeance, or you have the goal of redemption, or something like that.
Man, at least they had a family. Sometimes they don't even have backstory.
Well, that is something that is incredibly hard to work with.
They're just dark loners who sit in the corner and are really cool and ultimately powerful. Discovered some new secret trick that
I would write up like a character who just literally points and laughs at that character, and then be like, how does that make you feel that someone is calling you an edgelord as you sit there sipping your mead across the room? Well, I don't like it.
I am the lord of my edge. It is silent and deadly.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I'm like, bias wise, I'm not a fan of those characters. I'm not a fan of characters that don't I can't insert things in the game for, and people would accuse me of being a bad GM, and I'm like, well, if you want to play World of Warcraft the game and just go about and just being just randomly grabbing people and asking them, do you want to go collect things? I hear if we kill things we take them. It doesn't really make much for a player incorporated story. It doesn't create unity, it doesn't create strife, it doesn't create something where you're invested in your character. Nothing to me is more sad than someone who doesn't try and act their character, act the mannerisms, act out what that character's character would be. And part of that is having a goal. It's almost like, not to get philosophical here, but...
Oh, go ahead.
Like,
please be philosophical. That will...
Well, how many people in life don't have goals and they're boring?
Yeah, okay, yeah. I see what you're saying.
Yeah,
like,
how many people in life have goals and they're completely boring? They're sitting there and they have no motivation. And without goals, you don't have success. I'm not trying to sound like Tony Robbins here, but Jesus Christ. Like, nothing is more annoying as a GM than sitting here and going, okay, so why are you here? What are you doing? And they say, well, I just want to be edgy and follow people around. I'm like, so you're a fedora tipping cringe stalker. Like, I don't know what to tell. I don't know what the fuck to tell you. Like,
new
Jesus.
character class, new prestige class.
Yeah.
Wizards take notes.
My character's name is Lawn Chair Dorito. His
Lawn Chair Dorito, the fedora tipping edge stalker.
There you go.
He's 13 levels of fedora tipper, 5 levels of edge stalker.
He's proficient in opening doors for ladies, but only if they offer him sex.
Takes it afterwards.
Oh God.
Like a real feminist. Male feminist.
Now the political channel.
Oh, whoops. Sorry. It's a political channel. Don't do that. We're not a
Don't
political
do it.
channel. We're not a political channel. Kibosh on that. Okay, so all of our derailment aside, what do you think? What kind of a character? Like, I think we sort of touched on sort of some of the repercussions of having no goal, but like, what sort of problems have you encountered in terms of the development of a character? And I know we've touched a little bit on it already, but what sort of problems might you have encountered in terms of development of character, or characters that don't have an overarching goal? Wistless characters, I guess we would say.
I find they get less, I guess, screen time or limelight. They tend to be the other players don't invest into them, because I'm not going to save someone who, if I'm playing a lawful neutral character, or sorry, a chaotic neutral, whatever you want to say if my character doesn't really give a shit unless I have a bond with your character, right? Well, depending on who I'm playing and what my motivations are, like, I'm not going to have the clash against yours. I'm not going to have a unity with you. So I'm not going to be invested in your character. So if your character dies, I'm probably, depending on who I'm playing, I might just loot his corpse and call it a day. Meanwhile, say I'm playing with a character, like, say if Toshitaki, the honored monk, steps in front of the arrow, he takes the arrow, and he dies in my name, I'm going to feel like that is sacrifice, thus adding to my character, adding to my goals, adding to my character's worldview, etc. And that's important, because the idea is you control your players, you do your best to control your players' narrative, but when you have no goal, you have no narrative, therefore you really don't have a character. You have something that is essentially just a shell of something that wants to gain XP, which really is, from a role-playing standpoint, is kind of nothing, because XP doesn't make your character a worthwhile character. It expands your character's abilities, his or her ability score, whatever, but experience and a well-written, structured goal is character investment. As a DM, I can throw things in that allow you to get limelight, but if you don't have a goal, you're not going to get any limelight.
Okay.
Or at least you're not going to get one that is as grandiose and as amazing as the other characters who spent time making flaws, goals, backstory, etc.
Well, okay. Well, what about this? how about bounce-off characters, okay?
Okay.
So this is a term I've coined just now, but a bounce-off character, in my view, would be a character that doesn't necessarily have any motives of its own other than to enhance the motives of the characters around them. So I've played in games... When this rule was sort of written, I had played a lot of games where players were probably suffering from a lot of character fatigue. Like, we played 7 days a week.
That's a lot of time.
Like 7 days a week, a different game every week, sometime every day. Like, and sometimes, you know, those games only lasted like 2 or 3 weeks. Like, so like maybe there was a lot of character fatigue going on here. But I found that a lot of the characters became sort of, they had no real purpose to be there on their own, but their purpose was to be a character in the game who enhanced in some way other characters, almost artificially. So, like, let's say, you know, I'm playing a dog. Okay? That's my character. I'm a dog. I'm playing a dog. It's like a magic dog. And the magic dog can't interact in the world of humans very well because it doesn't speak. It just is a dog. Except it's magic and intelligent. And so I can, I haven't put any more thought into it other than that. And so I'm a dog, but I'm going to help everybody. I'm going to be Lassie to everybody else's, I don't know, the freaking little boy in Lassie.
Yeah.
Like, we'll say little Billy.
Yeah.
Right? Is there something wrong with a character that basically tries to bring everyone up, enhances everybody else?
But I think that's that character's goal, and that's that character's character, though. Like a character that, say, like the Squire boy who is always positive, trying to motivate the players regardless of how dank and dark things seem. That is a character whose goal is to keep the party together. Lassie's goal is to create unity, to be a mascot, to continue with the party and oversee them because she's invested in them, because she has this innate sense of loyalty, etc.
Okay, but then let me ask you this. Why?
Well, I would argue if it's a dog, I would argue the nature of a dog. If it was the squire, maybe the squire wants to adventure with the party because the squire has, for example, the want and need to learn, to see things from an adult standpoint, even though he or she might be a child. Maybe he's indebted to the party. So there has to be a reason why the squire is there instead of just saying, I have a squire. Okay, you have a squire. So did you pay him? Okay, cool. So that's like your most mundane, simplistic answer. But over time, regardless, attachment bonds happen, these things. So eventually goals do formulate. So I want to say almost goals are eventually unavoidable. And if you continue to avoid goals, you're actually inhibiting character growth.
Okay. Going further with this bounce-off idea character, sort of a subset, we'll say, is mercenary characters that are paid by the party. And these are air quotes that I'm doing right now that you can't see, microphone, and people watching. My 1,000 trillion subscribers who are now listening because they're listening to backdated episodes. Hi, future subscribers. But anyway, people who are mercenaries who are paid by the party. They have no actual motivations of their own. Their only motivations are to do what the party as a whole wants, and they get paid somehow, usually never, to be in the party.
I gotta say, mercenaries are the best fodder. I want to say that. Well, it's true because if mercenary fighters are common, if I hire your character, it's like, yep, I'm Orgoroth, the orcish mercenary, sweet. So you're disposable, and if you die, I can collect your items, so I am on top. If I was playing a dickhead character,
Sure.
but I just think that they're good characters. Like they have a goal, their motivation, their goal is money, and they play their character. If you play your character right, the question is your character invested in the party? Your character is obviously invested in the party's gold. If the party dies, okay, you don't get paid per se, but you might get a little bit wherever you pick up off their bodies or pick up through the dungeon or adventure. I think with that in mind, you're you're providing a service. Your goal is to provide that service, or maybe you're under the guise you are a mercenary, but you're really just a fink and a thief, and you're taking these people for a ride. It's kind of almost what yours is in the moment. There's a whole bunch of different ways to play that character, and even throw them goals. Like I've had characters in parties that do not initially. They have a minor backstory and a very simplistic reason for being there, and then I'll think of the backstory and the goal afterwards. Kind of, I guess, being a bit of a hypocrite when I mentioned how like things need to be hammered out in due process beforehand. But I've played those characters, and they're not bad. It's just that you really need to sit sometimes and think about how you want to do this character, how you what motivates them, etc., which is of course a goal. And I think it's inevitable because you see other people have such a good time with goal orientated characters, and eventually that always catches on.
Okay, so I guess the next question that sort of is begged from this sort of line of questioning that we've gone from is, how big a goal do you think is enough? So can my overarching goal be, I need to go to the post and get some stamps? Mm-hmm. Is that good enough as an overarching goal?
Well, let's paint a picture here.
Assuming we're playing a legendary epic, like the campaign is not like, Grandma's Night Out. Like this campaign is literally we're gonna go kill Smog, but my goal is to go to the post.
So we're talking about the Hangover, the Fellowship of the Hangover type of thing versus a...
Well, my character has an overarching goal. I want to go to the grocery store and buy a couple of tomatoes.
Okay, well, let's make it fun. All right?
That's my overarching goal. Let's go kill Smog.
Well, so your character wants tomatoes and everyone else wants to slay the dragon.
Yeah.
I don't see anything wrong with that.
That's my greater goal.
Well, you know what? I would say, like, okay, well, if you're here
tomatoes are just down the road.
If you're here for tomatoes, why are you going to go slay the dragon? Well, maybe those...
Because I want to hang out with the party, I guess, now.
Well, if you're sitting there and you're like, I'm eccentric...
Because I'm a player of this game and I'd like to participate
well, if your character's eccentric and he's like, I find these people to be quite intriguing, and you know what, tomatoes aren't in season right now, so I'm going to go kill some time.
No, okay, so now we're changing my goal from tomatoes, which are just really common, and I can literally walk to the corner and pick some up for like 2 coppers, which I got as a starting character.
But it's springtime and the frost is not set, and those tomatoes need to have that nice little...
Okay, I'm changing my goal to take a nap.
Take a nap? Well, then you meet your goal.
Well, this is what I mean. Like, yeah. where is the line? All right, like, well, you're making these tiny goals that I'm giving you as insignificant. You're turning them into epics, right? So obviously the tomato goal is not appropriate for the game.
If people want to troll their DM, as say Auntie Bridget wants to go to the grocery store, and Auntie Bridget all of a sudden runs into every single...
This is a hyperbolic example. Like it's just like how big of a goal is enough. Like I don't think we can get into the reads of this.
I just want to derail us for 1 second here. Imagine a goal where you have say you're playing a feudal age Japan frickin' game where you have a retired master swordsman who wants to go, and he needs to go pick up some flour because his wife makes amazing dumplings.
Sure.
But however, I'm like, okay, so you're a master swordsman, sweet, so your reputation must precede you. Well, there's a lot of people after that title and a lot of people after that renown from slaying you, so your mission to go grab flour turns into Samurai Jack style. You go and you're trying to grab some damn flour and bring it home. Meanwhile, you're running into master swordsmen with names and renowns and titles behind their name, assassins, and I think that's a pretty slick game, just kind of thinking off the top of my head.
That could be fun, but as a party, though, I don't know. With like a party of people, that might not work out so well.
No, that's more like a...
That's like a novel.
That's more like a one, like
a cartoon.
Like Joe's trying to make dumplings and everyone gets in his way and he's got to cut them down.
Yeah, and see, that sounds like a fun short story. Well, maybe not a short story, but like a cartoon or something.
Like something similar where you have those things where sometimes simple goals are fine, but they obviously are not long lasting depending on what they are.
Does the goal have to be like, so what you're saying then is the goal has to be something long term?
I'd say reasonably obtainable. I think that working with your DM well enough, I think you guys can collaborate and maybe determine the time, not so much the time period of success, because it really sucks knowing when you're going to complete a goal, because it kind of ruins the story for the character.
Do you think that a solid goal, like I would like to get 5,000 gold from the Prince of Humpertown, because I want to kill Black Bart, is that a better goal than, say, I want to be a good person? Or, I guess, I want to live by the rules set down by my father or whatever.
Well, I think now
we're some code of ethics.
We're talking about goals and values, which to me are two different things. Values are things that are ongoing and you have to continue to maintain forever. 5,000 gold.
I want to be the strongest.
You want to be the strongest?
Okay, I want to get 5,000 gold for killing Black Bart.
Yeah.
Better than a goal, I want to be the strongest, which, if anybody watches anime, that is the greatest trope of all time.
Yeah, well, if you want to continue that's a trope that is obtainable but also easily lost, because how many other people are trying to strive, right?
Oh, yeah, that's endless adventure. I want to be the strongest.
And
that's
a good goal.
What's a better goal? Is I want to be the strongest a better goal than Black Bart?
Well,
or what do you think?
And to kind of almost, like, I guess, shoot myself in the foot and be a hypocrite again, I think that the goal, dependent on the character, what that means to them. Like, you put value into, like, sometimes obtaining... If your character suffers from neuroses and is a little bit nuts and his goal is to go get those tomatoes, and it means that much to him, whereas slaying the dragon that burned down your village, which is the other character's goal, to quantify that to that character, I think would be kind of an interesting way of looking things. Because what if that person has all that much more drive to find the best tomatoes, whereas the other person's a half-asser and they not really into slaying the dragon? Or kind of almost like, I have to play that, right?
It sounds like you're tickling the idea that the tomato goal is okay so long as it's a long-term goal as well. It's not like I would like to once eat tomatoes tomorrow. Like, I don't want to go to the store and eat tomatoes tomorrow. It's like, I like tomatoes and I would like to continue eating tomatoes for the rest of my life. So the dragon burning all the goddamn tomatoes is a real freaking problem for me.
Exactly. Well, there's that too.
So a good goal would then be something that's continuous. Like, I enjoy peace. I strive for peace.
Yeah.
Not, I want peace tomorrow so I can take a dump and have a nap and I'm good.
But if you take those characters though that don't have a goal, like I would take wanting to continuously eat tomatoes, and then you having to find out why the locusts are eating all the tomatoes, no matter when, etc., etc. Because some goals are continual, right? Like being the strongest swordsman, there's always going to be people trying to strive to beat you. Being king, you become king, great, but then now your other problem is people are trying to assassinate you or usurp your throne, etc.
Yeah.
So,
well, and that's sort of what I'm getting at too, right? Like, so obviously then there is a line of what a good goal is and a bad goal is, right? Because successful goals, we'll say, are ones that seem, based on our discussion and sort of the way we're trying to discuss this rule, it seems to me that a goal that can continuously produce action is the best kind of goal. And a goal that produces action very few times, or maybe even only once, is a shit goal. Like, it's no good. So, like, a goal, like my character, like, having a character that's just like, I want to be a symbol of good luck to people. Like, that's my goal. And what does that mean? Like, or I guess now that I'm sort of poking this idea around, like, yeah, what about goals that don't make a lot of sense? Where it's like, you know, my goal is to, be the symbol of good luck to people. You know, I don't want to be like a deity or anything like that. I just want to be lucky.
Well, if you want to be Luck Obama, I guess you could say, the way political channel. I don't know. I'd say that's that's ongoing, right? And it's once you maintain something, it's sometimes easy to lose it. I don't necessarily think that's a bad goal. Like there's been I will admit, like everyone has their biases, and there's been backstories and goals where I'm just like, I can't stand this, but I gotta take that as, you know what, no, this is this character and this person's want and need for their character, so let's see what we can work with, and you kind of learn about yourself and your stylings as a DM and how you can kind of work around that and incorporate those goals. I would say like becoming a living avatar of something, like whereas a paladin can be a symbology of something, like a virtue and strength, etc., where you can even take that up to a next level where you become like an angel or an avatar of that faith of that.
Sure. Yeah.
But angels fall, etc., so it's need to maintain that. I don't necessarily think that becoming the incarnation of a virtue is necessarily a bad thing.
No, that's good.
So
that sounds like a great goal.
No, I think it's an awesome goal, actually.
That sounds like a fine goal, and I guess, but looking at the rule again, like I'm looking at the screen right now, penalty. The rule does talk about the goal having to define its motives. So, thinking back, yeah, I'm trying to like talk about bad examples of goals, and the rule kind of outlines it on its own. So, like the tomato rule, where it's like, I'd like to go to the market and eat a tomato once. You know, this is a trash goal because it doesn't define your motives in the course of the game, right? But I want to go to the market and get tomatoes always. Whenever I want tomatoes, I want to be able to do that. Yeah. Is a great goal because it defines your motives. Your motives are almost entirely defined by your ability or the ability of you to get tomatoes or better tomatoes, right? Like you might be getting pretty okay tomatoes now, but you know, if the peace treaty between yourself and the next kingdom over is accomplished, you know, tomatoes are going to be really great because that's a tomato producing paradise.
Well, and that kind of brings that, like, kind of the other points that we talked about. What requires there to be consistent tomatoes? Not drought, not locust, not all this other stuff.
Yeah.
Say you're running Big Billy's tomato farm and you're loving your life, and then all of a sudden bad stuff happens. There's your goal.
Yeah, but that's the thing about these goals is like regardless of what goal you've chosen, if it doesn't define your motives, like the rules suggest or says, like it's not useful.
No,
because without that, you know, if the goal is to just look cool, I just want to look cool. It's like, okay, well, you built your character, you said he looks cool, your goal is fulfilled in session 1, you can sit in the corner and stay there.
I would make someone scar his face with a torch.
But there you go. Like, I guess that makes sense. And so I guess we can go back then to the idea of what you end up with, what the player experience what do you think the player experience is for someone who doesn't have a goal? We'll start with that. What do you think the player experience is for someone who doesn't have a goal? And just sort of,
I would say I'd get jealous. I would get jealous because I would, like, from my experience and maybe some others, they get the limelight goes to the other people. They're more well established. They're easier to interact with. I find that if my character, say the brooding, edgy drow who always keeps his hood up, hangs out by himself at a table, no one's going to want to talk to him. So there's no interaction because you're attempting your best to look menacing. Okay, so no one talks to him because you've accomplished your goal of looking menacing.
We had a player, or we've had players, and this is sort of tangential, but it's the same idea, I think, because this reminds me of what you're saying.
Yeah.
We've had a player that would, I don't think he had much of a goal when he was playing. Like, his characters didn't have a goal. They just sort of were always along for the ride. Or if they did have a goal, they didn't speak up very much. Like, they didn't get the spotlight very often because they were sort of quieter, shyer players. The GM didn't just like, and what are you doing? Like, they didn't always hand them a personal invitation to play.
Yeah.
And as a result, sometimes they would get no airtime. Like, it would just, the flow of the game would not, the GM just wouldn't stop the flow of everybody else's game to be like, what about you? You know? And it's sometimes led to the game falling apart, because the guy would just get upset that the game's not working out for him. And then everybody be like, whoa, we'll play something else then. Like, we'll do something else. The game's not fun. You know, we can.
Well, no one likes the idea of, say, for example, traveling across town, bus, subway, or whatever to go and do nothing. Like, listen to other people get limelight, and that's, like I'm saying, like, people need a goal. But you know what? You gotta have a goal and still be an introverted person. But as a DM, what I would do, and this is kind of something I used to do a fair bit, and I kind of stopped doing it because everyone seems a bit more social and open to giving other people time. Because sometimes you do get a greedy player too. They want to hog all that time.
There's a lot of them.
There's a lot of them, right? Because they want to...
Especially in younger guys.
Yeah, exactly. Especially in younger dudes. But I almost do... I write down their first initial on my little book behind my DM screen, and I do a few ticks, right? And I will say, okay, well, how many NPCs interactions did these people have a game? I almost do like a little bit of stats.
Oh,
right?
do you?
I do.
Oh, that's interesting.
Because the thing, and like, because then I know, okay, well, who's having interactions, and if I notice someone has been dry for a game or whatever, I'm like, no. You are going to have your own personal little random encounter, whether it be positive or negative, whatever. I do a little dice roll, have a little chart graph, whatever, do my thing. Because that way it's an all-inclusive, encompassing game.
That's a good plan.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
And then the thing is, though, too, is that
I like that.
Yeah, well, thanks. One of the things that I also do is I look at someone who, if they sit there bored and they're on their phone, I'm like, okay, well, this thing happened. How does your character feel about that? What are they thinking? Because...
Yeah, I've noticed you do that.
Yeah, because the thing is that way people get a look into the character. They get a look into the goals. They get to look into what the mentality is. Because, for example, let's say...
Usually people don't answer, though. They usually are just like, I don't know.
And that's...
I'm feeling like I want to beat the crap out of a guy or something
like
that. It's
fine.
usually a really... Like, I think that's even a more energetic answer than you usually get to that question. Because people are usually just like, I don't know. I don't have feelings.
Toshitaki's player tends to answer me a fair bit when I'm like, you see this slight against a commoner by whatever, how do you feel? Right? And it makes them sit and think about their character's virtues and things like that, and they reiterate to the party, and they're like, no, I am a stoic monk who's a little naive, more than a little naive, willingly, etc., etc. I uphold good, and I don't hold value in material items, blah 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 blah. So I go up to the noble and I one punch him off his horse, and I take the gold back that after he accosted the damn commoner, give him the gold back. Mm-hmm. Right? So, or whatever. Mm-hmm. But those are all things you can do to weed out people who are having difficulty playing their characters. And I don't think that the group that we're playing in, anyone really has any true difficulty playing their character by any means.
No, I don't think so.
But I noticed that...
They're all pretty old. Yeah,
everyone's pretty seasoned. But doing those things, because everyone has stylings. And the thing is, as a DM, my styling is to try and get out as much of what the character's perception, goals, what their motivations are, and continue those, because sometimes you throw a big wrench in the machine and you start corrupting your players, and when you start doing awesome things like that, it's nice to know where they're at mentally, and you start presenting these things where, say, Caleb, the neutral good cleric, I throw him in situations where he's got to punch an old man or something, and then people take notice on that, and the party's like, wow, you've kind of gone off the rails, friend, and you stress out the character, maybe even the player a little bit by putting things that are really annoying. And not to sound like an asshole, but sometimes I play the player and sometimes I don't play the characters, and
that's pretty normal.
That's a good thing to do sometimes.
Yeah, I like to. That's a lot of my GMing style, to get off the rails slightly from the topic, is about basically hyping up challenges. Like a lot of what I would call it my strengths, but it might not actually be a strength. But a lot of my GMing is about hyping up challenges and making players feel that anxiety towards what is coming up. They're always like, oh no, there's a thing that's spoopy. So the defeating even going for the challenge is a challenge in itself, and then once you attack this challenge, now the challenge is a problem, but you've already succeeded just by trying.
Well, I think your strengths are definitely setting atmosphere and setting a precedence that this is not something that is going to be easy.
Yeah.
And
people get depressed over it. Like I remember one of my players, they were just like, your setting's really depressing because you can't win.
Life is suffering. Choose your suffering.
Yeah, the settings, you're not supposed to win the setting, and it's built that way. Like you're not supposed to win against the setting. The setting is not supposed to be solved by like a random bunch of dudes in a bar, unless that's the game, and it wasn't the game. Nobody wanted to do that. That was nobody's goal.
Yeah. Well, I think that kind of paves the way too for setting the precedence that, say, the Lich Lord that runs the whole nation, or whatever you want to say, that is the big baddie, and you're not going to run in and be the barbarian and bash his brains in very easily.
Sure. Yeah.
I think that it's nice to hype up your antagonists. It's nice to hype up these things and sometimes it's nice not to. Because when people are like, yeah, we heard rumor of this thing, we're going to go to the woods and bash its face in. Well, maybe you should have explored the setting a bit more, asked more villagers questions, maybe read the literature of what was in the library. Otherwise, you're going to get your brain bored through and be part of the mother brain hive mind.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Let's go back to the topic. We're sort of on the topic, but not really.
But then again, too, like kind of taking that setting, like goals and settings are really interesting because you can collaborate those things fairly easily.
You can do some world building by choosing goals too. Like you're just like, I want to defeat the dragon Malgathor. It's like, okay, well now there's a dragon Malgathor.
Yeah,
you've just world built.
I almost choose a theme for every single one of my campaigns. This one's religion. I've done one where it's political. Where the players change the setting based on, like, say you do the main problem is religion or political or whatever, right? So say let's go to political. So you have political uprisings and problems, right? Players can do a whole bunch of things, take advantage of things, usurp things, rebel rouse, rally the people, whatever you want to say, maintain order, whole bunch of other things. So they have a hand in the world building. Every campaign is something where the players can continuously change things within my setting because they have the power to do so. If a player wants to run for office and become mayor of Laganthor or whatever the hell, do it.
Yeah, that's the way to go. That's how I run mine. Like, that's 100%. That's kind of the reward of having a goal and enacting your goals, or even just trying to enact your goals. Stuff's going to happen, and usually if the game runs a while and the players get endeared to the GM and people who run the settings, those characters will just become fixtures. They'll become NPCs, or you'll hear stories about those guys in the background. Yeah. Like we got. In the game I run, almost all of the previous campaigns are mentioned. Like, I do news blurbs often when I run games. Yeah. Where it's like, in the news, the town crier talks about this, or people are talking about this, that, and the other thing. And,
make them royalty, maybe do statues in their name.
I'm always talking about the either unfinished situations if the game fell apart, or the repercussions of situations if the game succeeded. Yeah. Like, for example, one campaign, like I've brought it up in every campaign since. Like, there's a war of clocks now going on, and this is a war between time wizards and this merchant family. And it's a fairly major conflict that I keep telling the players they can go and interact with. And all of them throw up their hands and say nope, because they know what's involved. Because they ran through the whole campaign and they know exactly what's there. They're old characters. Yeah. And they're like, not a chance. Those guys are monsters.
I did one campaign where they slayed a false hero, and the one guy assumed his identity and he ran for office, and he got it. Like, because it was all like this master stroke plan that they did. And now there's statues dedicated to Darius Black in town, etc. And that's kind of funny when that person ever comes and plays. Then he's like, I remember that because that is my character.
I did that.
Yeah. And that's nice because
that's the fruits of having a goal.
Yeah, it's
and enacting it.
Yeah, and it's an immortality project within a setting.
Yeah.
So
and that's the rewards for sure for that. Okay. So how about this? Often these goals will have they have an end. Like we said that the most successful goals don't really ever have an end, but some goals are big and they do, like slay the dragon, right?
Yeah.
All right. After slay the dragon, is the search for meaning a viable goal?
I think it is, because aren't people, like, not to go all philosophical, but people are doing that now.
Sure.
People are doing that now in real life. They search for meaning, they search for religion, spirituality, whatever.
So then basically long-term but epic goals are okay so long as they are epic enough that one can theoretically devote their entire life to.
Yeah.
Like, the character can realistically devote their life to. Going to the store once and buying a tomato is not an epic goal, and then after you eat your tomato, you don't ponder, what is the meaning of my life? I have succeeded at all the things I could ever want, right? It just seems so silly.
See, now I want to make a character, if we ever do a game, I want to make a master swordsman who really enjoys a bathhouse at the top of the island, and he wants to go there, and he goes, I hear you're going my way. Allow me to accompany you. And then his whole thing is just going to be running into Master Swordsman and trying to just get brothel maidens at the end of the quest. And then he'll go back home and then do it again. I want to do that guy. But anyways, to digress on that one, because I think that's actually kind of cool. But then again, I'm an idiot. I would say that virtues, like, the quality of your goal could dictate the quality of your character. I think that is not always the case, but I think it certainly can be the case. I think values and goals are two different things. Goals are achievable, and that's it. Some you do have to continuously maintain. Some goals lead into other goals, but virtues and values are really interesting. So
what's the difference?
Well, goal in
your mind.
In my mind, a goal is obtainable. Right? A goal is obtainable, and that it sometimes breeds other goals. Like your goal is to become king.
Slay the dragon.
Got there. Now your goal is to maintain your kingdom until death. Now, if you do that, your time ends when you are dead.
Both of these are goals.
Okay. Values. On it, be a pariah, a man of honesty, a man of virtue, and a man who never sways in his values. So let's say honesty is a value. So your character's value is to never lie, right?
Yeah, that's not a goal though.
That's not a goal. That's a virtue. That's a virtue. Sorry. So this virtue continues on. A virtue will add substance to your character. It helps your character. How would your character act in this situation? If your character is a paladin, true and just, and swears never to lie, because that is a slight against their god and against their belief structure, and you end up in a thieves' den where every single party member is caught, and they ask you, where's this thing? And the rogue has it, and 4 out of 5 people say that it's not on the party, but the paladin then is going to say, we have it, right? The thing is that sometimes these things end up getting, like, they create these interesting stories.
All right, so this is I think finally getting kind of interesting. This idea of virtues versus goals. So you can have a very fleshed out and developed character with a lot of virtues,
yes,
or even a lot of flaws that you've built for yourself. Like, you've built a character, he's got all these virtues, all these flaws, and we've sort of established that these things are not goals. Like, I want to always tell the truth, I want to do right, I want to always punch babies when they're newly born. You know, if these three are your standing sort of what you find the most virtuous is
praise groomish.
Yeah, praise groomish. Why do you exist? Like, I want to live by my virtues. Okay.
Well,
so are you a player? Like, can we just retire you now and just say that you randomly show up at freaking pregnant women's birthing ceremonies and punch their babies, and then tell them that that's what you do? Like,
yeah. Punch them right in the eye.
Are you really a character, or are you just an NPC? Are you a very well written NPC?
Well, I think kind of almost trying to go full circle here. You can have virtues but have no goals, and you could be
your character's unplayable.
Well, I would say to some degree, dependent on if they're not goal orientated, possibly, yeah.
Like you're just a tagger on. You just sit there going, I have all these virtues and I'm very well written, and you never have the action. You never get the opportunity to act them out.
Well, that's like
unless the GM forces it to.
Mentioning pregame, like we did in previous sessions, saying, okay, well, what's your association with the party? I just really like these guys and I just want to hang out with them. Like, so you're protectorate for the party.
Yeah, the most obvious answer is I don't know. Because that's usually what you get when you ask players for pregame information.
I
haven't figured that out yet. I don't know.
Before I meet in person, because my time is often well wasted, I will say, get your backstory done, get your virtues done, get your goals done, and if this is the setting, this is how you guys, like say pirates. Okay, you're all hired to be on the good ship, the Remembrance. They're on the Remembrance. Awesome. Okay, so you know you're getting paid, you know you're there for a reason, and you know your comrades for a reason. Now, I shoot them the question, how long have you been together? 5 years. Okay, so you've established some bonds then. So you guys know each other. So you guys are going to act like you guys have bonds with one another. Awesome. You kind of play on that, in theory. But that's the thing, is that you end up with bad players who are like, yeah, this is my blood brother for 17 years. I don't give a flip if they die.
Yeah, exactly.
I hate that. I hate that so much. And I'm kind of letting myself shine, my saltiness shine on that. But it's
okay.
It's true, because I sit there and
we should do a complaint stream someday.
You know what? I'm good at bitching.
We just complain about games and characters one day.
Yeah,
that'd be really great. Get real personal too. Start hating each other's characters. Just start a fist fight. Turn it into internet blood sports without the drama.
Okay, well, probably.
Oh, shots fired! Internet blood sports. Eat that. Got them.
You got them.
Yeah,
you got them.
Except for the Kumite. They haven't fallen apart yet. Anyway, sorry, off topic.
Yeah, that's
super off topic.
That's a realm I have not gone into, and I don't think I will. I'm more concerned with my shitty robot channels, which I like to watch. Drama. But yeah, I'd say that, like, I guess my thoughts on the whole thing is that values are virtues are important for structuring a character. Goals help direct and motivate your character in terms of what they want. Having a substantial goal is more important. You can have short-term goals. If you're having difficulty having a goal, maybe speak with your DM on your character's idea of where you want your character maybe to go, but obviously not enough to kill surprises, because nothing's more kind of aggravating for a DM.
That's a really good point. Let's talk about that. Characters who have pre-written story goals that they want their DM to enact.
You mean like a checklist that someone wants to have happen?
I would like my paladin at level 1. I want to be a level 20 blackguard by level 20. All right? I want to fall to Dweeblex. All right? Can you make this happen? Is this good?
My question is that to my players, I would, well, here's my question. I answer a question with a question. I would just say straight up, I'm like, well, can you make it happen? Can you make it happen? Because
is this even a good goal though? Like, if you've started your character with the drama of your character planned out, like something like that. And that's a great archetypal, like, 3rd edition D&D kind of example, where it's like, I want to become a blackguard, so I start at level 1 as a paladin, and like, you've already pre-planned that you're not going to be a paladin forever, and you're going to fall to some dark entity.
You know what the trick is?
What is happening?
You throw so much morally corruptible stuff right away, because they know that they got to do good in order to reach us. Because you do that.
Troll the
shit out of them. Because, okay.
So, and then give them gruel at 10, so that they got to, like, they can't even establish that they want to fall.
So here's the trick. Level 1 paladin, throw a bunch of moral conundrum stuff at them right away, so they have to do good. So they earn the praise of their deity. They will never forsake them, and they're like, shit, I'm too angelic to become a blackguard now. What are they gonna do? Yeah. What are they gonna do? Well, I'm gonna go slay people.
Why? It doesn't sound like that's in character.
Not at all.
Your inner roll a will save against your inner.
There you go, dickhead. Enjoy your optimization and planning in like hour-long plan out of your character and where they want to go.
But yeah, well, I often get things like that where it's like that's an example, like a really good example. But there have been other examples that are more subtle where it's like, oh, can we have like I made a villain for my character. Can we have the villain for my character show up? And you're just like, what?
Well, I've done characters where they have a backstory where the person like someone has slighted them and caused them to go on this path, right?
Sure, okay.
Which is great. It is up to the DM if they want to spring that on me. It is up to the DM. Like, say, for example, Sigurd Starbuck fights a dragon, slays it, right? The dragon had slayed his brother. Now, years later, that's Sigurd's backstory.
Well, he establishes a dragon.
Yeah, the dragon has now re-risen as a Draco Lich. Okay, well, crap. He wasn't expecting that because that was not foretold. I've also played games where the bad guy who has ruined your life has never shown up, and now you are level 20, and now you're like, hey, well, now that I'm off the island, I've slain all the monsters, and I successfully have gotten with the party out of the floating astral isle, and I'm going back to Toril. I have the knowledge and experience to fuck that guy up beyond repair, and I am going to do so.
Yeah, that's the epilogue now.
That's the epilogue, and then that's a beautiful thing. But also incorporating them in the story to the DM's discretion is a beautiful thing. What if your knight, who is now ready to avenge his family being slain in his homestead, finally gets to the wizard who has done that, and the wizard is now an invalid, and all of a sudden that victory, that amazing battle has been stripped of him, and he sees just this sad, like, emaciated carcass in front of him.
Yeah, just got Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is a killer, kids. There's charities that you should donate to. Solving Alzheimer's. Terry Pratchett has Alzheimer's.
Does he?
He's a national treasure, and I wish they could cure it. Discworld was the greatest series of books forever. It's like 40 fucking books. It's amazing, and each one is great, except for some of the Rincewind one. The one about Australia was really dumb.
I've been reading a lot of Isaac Asimov lately, but anyways,
sorry, we are devolving. But yeah, I don't know. Character goals, or it's like, yeah, where you establish world building, that's good, but like, once you start feeding the GM lines, basically, or it's like, or other ones that I've encountered are like, my character's goal is to basically be a rival to this other character. Could you please make this other character that I've written up for you that I could play if you'd like be part of the game, or something like that. Like, just strange quest feeding to the GM. I don't know. It's to me, things like that. Like, this is me erecting almost like a straw man, but
it happens. Like,
but this is an example of things that happen, and I've seen it happen all the time. Don't do this. The GM just, like, I would be like, okay, but I would probably alter it so that you never let the player play the villain and the character at the same time. Like, that's absurd. And
well, I had one character, Roscoe Morley, that Alec played, and it was a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde thing.
Yeah.
But I would tell him, his character would go to sleep, and I would be like, was he drinking this day? Yeah. Did I think he went overboard with his drinking? Yeah. Okay. Now, because he was like this, like, kind of like tragic noir detective, and I'd be like, make 3 strength-based rolls or whatever.
Yeah, I know.
And that's how much damage he would do, say, throughout the city.
Sure,
right?
yeah.
Or how many people he, like, I would say, okay, you did this, okay. and then I'd be like, your character did this, and he would sit there and like read. He goes, "Holy shit, I crushed a man's skull under toe, etc."
Sure. But he didn't play that character, right? Like you played that character and said, "This is like." In this example, he's playing a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde,
Yeah.
and he's Dr. Jekyll.
Yeah.
In this case, it's like a noir detective, right? And his Mr. Hyde is played by the GM.
Yeah.
And he world built and said, "There's a Mr. Hyde to my Dr. Jekyll."
Yeah.
And you as the GM said, "Okay, we can work with that."
Yeah,
and here's the things that Mr. Hyde is doing.
Yeah.
And-
He was basically a character that was a cop that was his goal was to hunt down this Roscoe's goal was to hunt down I'm trying to remember the character's name, but he was trying to hunt this character down, but he didn't realize he was the character up until he was forced to transform, and the party had to deal with it.
Yeah, and then he got to play the villain.
Then he got to play the villain.
Yeah,
And
just because that's
and
that's cool too.
And he almost killed one of my primary like story assisting NPCs.
When
he destroyed he destroyed the guard station, etc. So
yeah, when that story came to a head, he was almost as a reward for basically, because spoiler alert, he died. That was the reward for his character being dead. Like he got to play that villain, and he got to be a badass with the villain, and he was a badass. He took the party for a ride, and that was a good fight. I was in that game, but what he didn't do was have two separate character sheets, one for his good guy character, one for his bad guy character.
No, we monster statted the guy because it was a beast.
But he was your beast.
He was my he
didn't go out and say, "Swampy, at the end of this, tonight I'm going to do this, 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 and this."
No, he never did that, because the thing is that if you are playing the character Roscoe, you're not playing the character Harvey. Was the Hyde name. He never played Harvey until the absolute end, and because if you're playing a character,
that's because you let him do it though.
Well, I did, because the thing is that on a final on basically the potential last character's last hurrah, which it was, I'm not going to play the character.
Well, that's good. That was good, because it was, like I said, it was the reward basically for good role play and him playing the Dr. Jekyll character, and that's a great reward, is being able to play the villain. Every character who kind of goes evil secretly wants to fight the party in like an epic battle at the end, and that's a great reward to give to somebody. And characters with goals like that, like turn evil goals or whatever, you play up a very good character, or you build a good storyline with your turn evil character, the reward is at the end being able to fight and lose to the rest of the party. Or win. Haha, if you're that good. But just to sort of finish this kind of little thought here, having a character whose goal is to write its own story in the game, I guess, is what we're sort of getting at. This creates a situation for the GM where he's either losing interest in your character, or you're basically, because you're playing two characters, you're getting twice the spotlight. Either that, or the GM's just going to ignore your requests, and you're going to end up feeling like your character is not being appreciated. Yeah, I guess don't do that. That's really what I'm saying, and for reasons like it never really goes well unless the GM just says, "Okay, well, we'll add this to the world, and I'm just going to take control of all this stuff." Like, as long as your goal involves chaos, I guess. I don't know. I think I'm off the rails on this one quite a bit.
That's okay.
Yeah, whatever. That's the way it goes. Like, a lot of what we're doing is sort of thinking about things as we go. Like, it's not like we script these podcasts. But I think that's probably a good place to end it. I can't think of anything else other than just retreading the same ground again. So how about we can go to closing comments, and yeah, we'll go there. So what do you think? Have we learned anything at all during this like little hour discussion of ours?
We learned we hate dull, boring characters without goals.
Yeah, virtues aren't goals.
Virtues aren't goals, and I actually picked it up from a book called Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson.
That's a good plug. That was a pretty okay book.
That was a fairly good book, yeah. And I took that and I'm like, well, that's important, right? Because why would I have an unending goal? Why would it be a goal? Because goals are obtainable, whereas virtues are completely different.
Goals are obtainable. That's actually a pretty good idea, or at least in theory they're obtainable.
Yeah. And because they're a motivator, right? Virtues can also be a motivator because you realize sometimes you slip from virtue and you're like, hey, I'm kind of...
Oh, but that's a goal, is to get back on the track.
And there you go. So that's how they can coincide and tie in. That's a very good point.
Yeah. Live a life of virtue is in its own way a goal, but it's not a goal if your virtue is like, I want to tell the truth. It's like, okay, well, that's not a motivating goal. Like, yeah, you tell... You're just saying that you like to tell the truth.
Yeah. And I would say that be very... I would say another good point that was brought up is don't send the DM the sketch of what you want your character from level 1 to 20, what the interactions and what you want them to have, and you should have an idea of where you want your character to go, but sometimes the setting and the monsters and the problems that occur sometimes don't allow that to happen, and sometimes you need to think and change. You know what I mean?
So a goal is not your plan for your character from level 1 to 20 because you wrote up a nice stat block at level 20 because that's what you like to see.
Because as a DM, if you sent me your stats and you're like you said, I want to be a blackguard at level 20, then you know what, you better work damn hard to do that. It would be best probably not to tell me that, honestly, because then... Yeah, because as a DM, I like surprises too.
It happens all the time, especially when people want to get into supplemental material in 3.5 and things like that. Like these are obviously old systems, but they exist in 5, and stuff that has like prerequisites like must be approached by the Secret Order of Assassins or whatever. Like, you know, oh, I want this feat that requires me to be approached by the Secret Order of Assassins. Could you please approach me at some point? It's like, well, no.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily want to do that.
I ran into that, though, where I've had players be like, I really think it'd be cool if this happened to my character. Could you make it happen? And I'm like, well, that kind of ruins the whole surprise of D&D.
Yeah. And that's the thing, too, is those prestige classes are not something you should be aspiring to. They're rewards that the GM gives to players who have done something exceptional.
Yeah.
And this is also one of the reasons why I don't like supplemental material. It creates this kind of environment where the math players who like to play with math, they thrive, but their characters don't.
You know what I enjoy, and this is me probably sounding like a cynic, but I'm okay because I am one.
Yeah.
I like it when the optimized math player falls socially, and I think that's where, not that they always fall socially, but like where you create a social situation or a thing where their numbers don't save them, because there's in role playing, sometimes your character says the wrong thing, and sometimes a roll does not mean that you get a roll. A crit 20 on you saying that, like, say your character says the wrong thing, a crit 20 you're like, okay, well, roll your social if that's what you want to say. They roll a 20 persuasion. Well, the king takes your unkind words as not a slight, and you're lucky you're not beheaded.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we discussed what rules are, like what goals are, what they're not. We briefly touched on sort of what kind of characters are produced by having no goals, which, like, just to reiterate, you end up with bland characters, and you'll usually end up with players who don't enjoy the game as much as they could, because A, they have no direction. B, they usually have no input into what to do, unless they have some sort of encyclopedic knowledge of what's being used right now. Like, the GM's throwing a owlbear at us. Oh, I know these things about owlbears. And in which case, are you even playing in character? Or are you just playing, the encyclopedia? Are you playing the monstrous manual on legs?
Well, and I've had that experienced player where I've thrown the description of the monster at them. Because I'm never going to say you're fighting a mind flayer.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, like, you find this strange creature with et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yada.
And Sometimes I run into it where the experienced player will go, "Fuck no, not your fucking Olithid! Shit!" And I'm like, "You're playing a barbarian who has his head up his ass, who's been living in a cave for 27 years. How the fuck would you know this is that? Calm the fuck down and don't ruin the surprise, asshole."
Usually I'm like, oh shit, if this is what I think it is.
And I like it when you do that.
Bad.
And I like it when you do that because they sit there and they're like, "Oh, well, he's read some books, so he knows it's something." And the worst is when some son of a bitch tries to Google Google monsters, and you're just like, "I knew what that is and how we can beat it." Suck my dick.
That's when you change the stats.
Well, that's why I love custom monsters.
This one doesn't have that weakness.
That's why I love custom monsters. And here's a free plug: go to Monster a Day on Reddit, and someone did a full custom monsters manual, which is actually fairly sweet.
Tell you what, if you send me a messenger link, I will add it to the description of the video.
Oh, slick!
Yeah, and then everyone can have free monsters manuals to go along with their 5th edition campaigns.
And remember to thank that guy, because I don't even remember who it was.
Who cares? That guy's amazing. Free material, guys. It turns out that they often do a better job than the people who get paid to do it. Just pointing that out. Ulterior motives there.
No biases from a man who's made his own system.
No biases. Just because it's distributed freely. Don't worry, though. There's no pictures. Because it's shit. Anyway, on that note, you guys should have a goal. When you build a character, have a goal. Because your character must have a greater goal to define its motives, or else it has no motives, and it shouldn't even be being played.
And you should
Just
have a goal.
stop playing.
Have a goal in real life. It'll
Actually, that's true.
It'll get you hand holding and kisses at Kissy Lake Lane with fly honeys.
Fly honeys.
Fly honeys.
Yeah. Or fly dudes, I guess, if you're a honey,
Yeah.
or a dude who's into honeys.
Yeah.
Or a, I don't know, trap, I guess.
Whatever you want, baby.
Whatever. It all works out. Goals are good.
Yeah.
They help. They make you cool.
Help you get those 5th edition Ladyboy elves.
Oh my god. Perfect. Thanks, wizards. You went and made everything great.
Okay, enough politicals.
This is not a political channel. On that note, thank you. Everybody, you all take care. Have yourselves a great night. I said